Good afternoon. It is 12:07 on Saturday, June 27th. My name is Richard Burke. I'm the Executive Director of Western Liberty Network, and this is the latest in a series, an ongoing series of trainings relating to specific skills that are of value to grassroots activists who support limited government. I'm going to begin. Oh, Virginia Hall is coming in, so we'll have her join us here in a second. So I'm going to have us do a screen share here. See if I can make my fingers work properly. Here we go. I want to inform people who are viewing the recording or who are here live that Western Liberty Network is a 501c3 organization. We do not endorse or oppose any specific candidate, political party, ballot measure, or legislation. What we do is we provide training to limited government grassroots activists that they can use as they like. And if you go to the website, westernlibertynetwork.org, you will be redirected to this site. And I wanted to bring you here, especially for those who are watching the recording, to see what resources are available. Here on the homepage, you see the latest event that's going on now, like the current training. This is being advertised here, and this is what people use to sign on with. And then we talk about things that we have done in the past. This was our last annual conference, and alongside here are some of the slideshows that are presented in the various breakout sessions. There's a lot of good information there. And the same is true for other issues. Here is some information we put up about training that we did in Oregon, Washington for local elections. This is the previous year's conference. Again, a lot of good breakout sessions that you can look at, photographs of what happened at those conferences. And that provides a lot of good information. But if you really want to train yourself, go to the training page. And here you will see Western Liberty Network Academy. That is what we call the overall collection of resources that we provide. And we've got a bunch of training documents. For example, how to do fundraising coffee events. If you click on that, you will get a sheet that you can view or download. None of these are copyrighted, so you can distribute them however you like and hand them out however you like. This is about, not copyrights or money. This is about getting the information out. And we have a variety of topics here, I think 32 topics. And at the bottom, you can download a single PDF file containing all of the training documents that we currently provide. And then the Saturday training sessions, of which this is a recording of, you can take a look at them. I do a lot of the trainings, but not all of them. We have guest trainers as well. And you can take a look at the copy or at the topic that you're interested in, and you can view them all free of charge. Between these documents and the videos, you can basically design your own custom curriculum for training. So that's all available. And then, of course, if you like what you see, you can go to Support Western Liberty Network. And if you want to, you can make a tax-deductible single or recurring contribution. That helps keep us on the road. We're going to be on the road. My wife and I tomorrow are going to be on the road to Washington State to do some training. And we're going to be doing an Oregon tour later in the summer. So anyway, this is all that's available now. Those who are watching, any opinions that are expressed are the responsibility of the people making them, and do not necessarily reflect what Western Liberty Network is doing. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go ahead and start the training session. Any questions about Western Liberty Network so far? No? Okay. Our next annual conference will be on February 6th, so mark your calendars for that. And so I'm going to begin with this about canvassing your neighborhood. Few things are as helpful as canvassing your neighborhood when you are looking at one of your neighbors eye to eye, and you're handing them a flyer and you're telling them who you are and maybe shaking their hand. There is nothing that's more persuasive than personal contact. TV ads are persuasive, mailings are persuasive, but nothing beats dealing with one of your neighbors eye to eye. And so every campaign that's running a good campaign plan, I encourage them to have a component there for canvassing. Now, what is canvassing? There are a lot of reasons why you might knock on somebody's door, but canvassing has some specific meanings. One of them is to collect voter data. If you're trying to verify voter information that the county has or the state has, that is one of the functions known as canvassing. Another one is discussing issues and standpoints. Anytime you are dealing with whether or not people should vote for or against a ballot measure, Rick Larson is joining us. That is also an act of canvassing. Convincing swing voters to vote for you or vote for someone else is also another function. And door-to-door is probably the most effective kind of canvassing you can do. There's also phone canvassing, text canvassing, and a lot of other things, but door-to-door is really the best. And there have been a lot of studies that have proven that direct outreach is the most impactful way of election canvassing. So if you're working for a campaign or you are running a campaign that is short on money, make up for it in shoe leather. It is very, very effective. One big question that I get is whether or not political canvassing constitutes soliciting. This was actually tested in a case that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. The case in question is Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York versus the Village of Stratton. I'm going to provide in the chat window a document that provides all of these references. But in short, political canvassing is not soliciting. If you are going door to door and you're selling vacuums or you're asking for, donations of time, material, maybe if you're asking someone for old furniture to give to poor people, or a donation, that is soliciting. But by judicial rule, political canvassing does not constitute soliciting. It's non-commercial speech, and political canvassing is a form of non-commercial speech. So if you're asking the person you're talking to for nothing of value other than the few minutes that you're going to be spending with them, you are not soliciting. Now, when you're canvassing, canvassers are legally allowed to be on private property for the purpose of knocking on doors. This includes homes or neighborhoods that have no soliciting signs. Okay, now this is tricky sometimes. You will come across some no soliciting signs, and when you see them, because you are not soliciting, you can ignore them. Now, if you're dealing with a private residence or a single private residence, an apartment or a house, okay, and they have a sign up that says no soliciting, I advise that you go ahead and knock on the door. Okay, now the complication you may face is that the person who answers the door may or may not understand that you're not a solicitor. They may or may not understand that you're a political canvasser. So go ahead and knock on the door. If they say something like, "Can't you see the sign? We have no soliciting." Okay, if that should happen, my advice to you is to say simply, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I'm a political canvasser. The courts have said that's not soliciting, but I don't want to bother you. If you want me to, I'll leave immediately." Okay. Most of the time, if this happens, the person answering the door will say, "Well, okay, I understand, what do you got?" Sometimes they might tell you to just go away. If they tell you to just go away, go away. But most of the time, they're willing to talk to you. And that's okay. Now, if you come across, if you're coming to like a place where there's a homeowners association, or the entry of an apartment complex, or the entry of condominiums, and it says on the front sign, like the Lakes Apartments, no soliciting. Okay, they do not have the right to bar you from those properties. Okay, if they put a sign that says no soliciting in front of a apartment complex, that's not a private entry. That's not an individual apartment. That's just the apartment company or the apartment owner expressing a wish for no soliciting. But you're not soliciting, you're canvassing. So you can go there. Now, if you are challenged, you can point that out and point out the court case. I'm not soliciting. I'm not asking anyone for money. I'm not asking anyone for material or time. I'm just doing political canvassing. Okay. That's fine. What you don't want to do is get into a fight with them where they call the police or anything like that. If they did call the police, you'd be shown to be in the right, but you don't want to waste half your day canvassing, to have that kind of an argument. You probably won't get an argument. You'll probably just go on property, park somewhere, start knocking on doors, and you'll be fine. Okay. But if you should happen to have a problem, express yourself. And if the apartment managers or the condo managers still object, my advice to you is that you tell them that you'll come back after you've contacted the police and after you've contacted them, and you can call them up and tell them about this court case, or you can let the police know what you're doing and come back later. In the meantime, just leave and then go to your next location, the next apartment complex, or next street of homes, whatever it is. So most of the time, you won't be bothered at all. What I'm talking about are the few situations where you will have issues. And most of the time, you won't have issues. Where you will is when you've got somebody that's young and inexperienced working as an apartment manager, maybe on a weekend because the manager's gone, or it could be someone who found out you're going to be canvassing and they want to cause you trouble, that maybe they're, a big government proponent and they're trying to get in your way. But just remember, as long as you are doing political canvassing, you're flying on the wings of angels. You're completely innocent. You're legally in the right. And, I advise you to avoid confrontations, assert your rights, but avoid confrontations. And after you're done canvassing that night, you can make plans to call the management of that apartment company and let them know what you're doing. If necessary, you can call the police and let them know what you're doing. You can say, I'm Janet Bailey. I'm doing political canvassing at the Lakes apartment complex. The manager doesn't understand that this is a protected act. So, if there should be an issue in the future, I want you to be aware. I'm also planning to go to this place, that place, the other place. And the police can tell you if it's a problem or not. There shouldn't be any problem, but you can do that. Also, if you are managing a large canvassing project, if you say have a Saturday where you've got 10 people out and about doing canvassing, you might want to call the police department beforehand and say, Sergeant, I wanted to make you aware that I'm leading a group that's doing door-to-door political canvassing on Saturday. And, I know that not all the apartment complexes and condo managers understand the law with regard to canvassing. So we're not expecting any problems. We're not looking for any conflicts. But if you should get phone calls, I want you to be aware of what we're doing. Do you have questions? Do you have concerns? And talk with them about it. And this can, prevent a lot of problems. Also, if the Lakes apartments, I'm picking on the Lakes because I used to live there, but and they never gave me any problems. But if the Lakes apartments should call the police would say, well, we've discussed this with your manager, and it is protected as long as they're not interfering or causing damage or doing any of those things. They'll set them straight. So these are just some things you should know. I will stress though that 90% of the time you're going to be able to go and do your canvassing. You're not going to even be interrupted. Most of these people have better things to do than to foil the efforts of somebody who's just peacefully doing their canvassing work. JD, you've got your hand up.
So I have a question about, well, let me put it this way. It's easily to recognize something as canvassing if you're going around and trying to promote a measure or a particular candidate. Mm-hmm. What about if you're involved in election integrity and you want to go to a household and ask them, do you realize that these four other people that don't have your last name are registered to vote at your residence? You know, that those kinds of questions.
That is political canvassing too.
Okay,
The first one in this document that I'll send you shortly, what is canvassing? The first one listed is collecting voter data, voter ID. That is one of the protected functions of canvassing. Uh,
perfect.
but what you don't want to do is if you're doing voter ID work or you're pushing a side in a race, whether it be a candidate race or a ballot measure race, do not ask for money. Okay, that then you become a solicitor. You know, if as soon as you start asking for money or asking for anything of value, like something for a silent auction or anything like that, then you become a solicitor. So you don't want to get into that mess, you know, unless that's your objective. Unless it's your objective to be solicitors, then you would have to stay away from any sign that says no soliciting. But as long as you're a canvasser and not a solicitor, um, and you're not asking for money, which would turn you into a solicitor, you're on the wings of angels, as I like to say. So I hope that, does that answer your question all right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, now there are some other signs that could be up. Now, again, these are signs that are placed on the doorway of a private residence, like an apartment door. You know, it says apartment 331. If there's a sign there that says no canvassers or no trespassing, or if there's a house that says no canvassers or no trespassing, if you see those signs, stay away. Okay, that's a different message than no soliciting. No soliciting is don't sell me anything. No trespassing is don't come here. No canvassing is I don't want to deal with canvassers. Now, again, apartment complexes and condominium complexes may not use these signs. You may safely ignore them if it is like in a gated community or a condo building or an apartment entrance. If it says no canvassing or no trespassing, you can go on in because again, you're not dealing with a private residence and they cannot stop you from conducting your First Amendment rights, from exercising your First Amendment rights. But if you get to a private residence, then you have to respect it. Okay, once you get to the front door of a private residence, then you have to respect a no trespassing or no canvassing sign. You can still knock on the door, as we said before, if it says no soliciting, because as a canvasser, you're not a solicitor. So that's a little bit different of a situation. Does that make sense to everybody? Anyone have any questions about that? Okay, that's really important. Okay, and again, you have the right to offer campaign literature to voters, even in gated communities with HOAs. And so I got real lucky. My wife and I bought a house about a year ago, and it's a nice little neighborhood, cul-de-sac, no HOA, thank God. You know, so so that's good. Political canvassers, as I mentioned, are legally allowed to knock on doors, interact with voters, and distribute literature without any solicitor's permit. If a police officer or someone tells you that you are required to have a permit, as long as you are not soliciting, you do not have to listen to that. The court case there was Lovell versus the city of Griffin, Georgia in 1938. So no city can require you to have a permit to do canvassing. You are not required to give prior notice before canvassing neighborhoods. If you are going to canvass a large complex and there's a management office and you think there could be trouble, it's always a good idea to call them and let them know and let them know what they're doing. Also, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that municipalities cannot restrict the times during which you can canvass. It's free reign between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. on all 7 days of the week. That case is Citizen Action Coalition versus the town of Yorktown, Indiana in 2014. So city and county governments can restrict your ability to canvass before 9 a.m. and after 9 p.m. But my advice to people is that they never canvass, during those times anyway. People are just having their breakfast, they're waking up, or they're getting ready for bed, or they're getting their kids ready for bed. So, um, I question this ruling myself on my personal opinion, but even if they said you could not canvass, or even if the court said you could canvass 24 hours a day, every day, I would advise people never to canvass before 9 a.m. or after 9 p.m. So anyhow, those things are available. I'm going to try to see if I can remember how to use this to send over my training document. Those of you who've been to my conferences may have seen this before. Okay, file, let's see, Richard, let's see, desktop. Okay, there it is, neighborhood canvassing PDF. And I'm also going to send you another one that is more of a detail, or more of a detailed document on what is soliciting and what is not soliciting. Okay, so these are now available to you in the chat window. You can download them at your convenience. And as soon as we have the recording of this training session put up on the training page of the westernlibertynetwork.org website, we'll have those available for direct download as well. Okay, now, this is all before you even knock on a door. There are different schools of thought. Studies have shown that a 3 to 10-minute interaction between, canvassers and voters increases the chances of persuasion. I don't like to take that long. People have different perspectives, and maybe with regard to different kinds of campaigns, there are different views, but I think that 3 to 10 minutes is too long. Okay. Your objective is to knock on as many doors as you can. And so what I advise people to do is have a little flyer, and they knock on the door, and if the door is answered, stick out your arm with the flyer in it and say, "Hello, my name is Joe Blow or Jane Doe," whatever the case may be, "and I am a volunteer for the Schmo for Congress campaign, and I would like you to take a look at this," and hand it to them. Usually if you stick your arm out and there's a flyer in it, instinctively people will grab it. And, do you have any questions? Normally they won't have any questions on the spot. They might have a few. But what you do not want to do is get sucked into a long conversation. You might knock on the door of a big government proponent who, wants to argue with you. Now, I don't know about you, but I love a good debate. I love a good debate. And if I'm just working on my own time, I could stand there for 20 minutes. But that's 20 minutes you're not, canvassing other doors. The same thing can happen. Same thing can happen if you meet someone once in a while. You find someone, you might know somebody in common, or you might agree or support the same person, and you'll start jamming on that. "Oh, do you know so and so?" "Yeah." What are they working on?" "Oh, they're working on the Angela Smith campaign," or whatever it is. And you start talking and you're having a great time and you're thinking about getting coffee. Don't do that either. Okay, what you need to do is remember why you're there. You're there to hit as many doors as you can. So if you start to get dragged into a discussion, what I advise is to say, "Hey, look, I really want to talk to you more, but I've got to hit a bunch of doors today. If you want to meet, let's meet next week at Starbucks." Okay, you can write it down. You can meet them. You can not meet them, whatever you want to do. If it's an opponent, you can say, "Well, I love these kind of debates and I'd like to get into it with you a little more. This is fun for me. If it's fun for you, maybe we'll meet next Wednesday, at some restaurant and have lunch." But get out of the conversation. And if they're reasonable people, they will let you go. They'll say, "Okay, that's fine. I don't want to interrupt you." And you thank them and you go to the next house. So it's a very short interaction. "Hi, my name is Richard Burke. I'm working on the Angela Smith campaign. And I wanted you to have this, and she wanted you to have this. And so if you have any questions, let us know. The contact information is on the flyer. Thank you very much." And that's it, because you've made a contact. Okay, don't get into a long conversation of persuasion. If they have questions, answer them, but don't get into a long conversation. If they're asking questions, good questions, you can say, look, I really have to get to a bunch of these other doors. But what you can do is go to the website that's shown on the flyer. You can email your questions or you can call the campaign office. But get out of there and get to the next door. That's the important thing to do. If they're not home, there are a lot of things you can do. If you knock on the door and they're not home, you can kind of stick your flyer into the door jamb where the little gasket is, the rubber gasket is, or you can roll up your flyer and stick it in between where the doorknob is and where the door frame is. I like to do that. If that's not possible, screen door, you want to be a little careful about it, but you can open the screen door, wedge it in and close the screen door. Obviously, don't open the main door. And, if none of that's available, you can always stick it under the mat with it half exposed. Another thing you can do is if you come across a chain link fence, you can roll it up and stick it in one of the holes of the chain link fence. That's particularly helpful if there's a no trespassing sign on the fence. You're not going in the fence, so you're not trespassing, but you can still leave the flyer in one of the holes. And of course, you want to be careful of things like dogs. Okay. Let's say there's a house and there's a fence around the house with a little gate. You can open it and go in, and it's all cool. There's no signs telling you to stay away, but you see a dog in there. If it's a little tiny Shih Tzu, you're probably okay. Just make sure you don't step on it. Uh, but if it's a larger dog, you might want to stay away. You might not. You've got to really use your judgment here and to protect yourself. But one place you do not want to put the flyer is in a mailbox. It's actually a federal crime to put a flyer in a mailbox. Sometimes there are little mailboxes right next to the door with a little lid that you lift up, mail goes in. Don't put it there. That is a federally protected mailbox. And so you want to make sure that you don't use that. You're probably not going to go to jail for 20 years, but if you get a complaint, it could reflect on your campaign. You don't want to have to deal with that. So that's very important. Are there any questions so far? We've gone a while without any questions. Am I so clear in my explanation of this information that nobody has any questions? Well, looks maybe that I'm lucky that way. Oh, JD, do you have a question? I see you've got your thumb up.
No, that was a thumb up
Oh,
saying that we had no questions because you're doing such a great job.
all right. Well, thank you so much, JD. That's good to my ears. Okay, now, if you're canvassing or if you're organizing a canvassing effort, there are some things that you need to do. The first thing you need to do is prepare yourself, or if you're running a canvas effort and you're managing multiple volunteers, make sure they prepare themselves. Ask them all to check the weather and dress appropriately. Once people go into the field, okay, once they go into the field, they need to stay in the field. Okay, if they take a break for any reason, 9 out of 10 times, they won't come back. They'll stay home or doing whatever they do. So check the weather and make sure that, if it's raining, make sure they have a poncho. Okay, no umbrellas. The reason why you don't want to have umbrellas is because you need your hands free because you're going to be carrying a list and you may need to shake their hands. You're going to be handing out flyers. So don't bring an umbrella. If it is raining, wear a poncho or something with a hood so that you don't get wet, you don't get sick. Make sure your shoes are appropriate to the weather and comfortable for walking. I have seen, without the desire to be sexist, I have literally seen women come in heels to do canvassing. And after a block, they're done. They're done because their feet hurt. If they have to go home to change shoes, they probably won't come back. Okay. If they, need to go get a poncho or something like that, they probably won't come back. If possible, wear a button or wear a lanyard.
Lucky brochure.
Yeah, go ahead. We got a question?
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. Um, there's another thing you want to do. Make sure you have 2 sandwiches in your backpack. If a backpack is fine. If you have 2 sandwiches, you've got something to eat. I've seen canvassers say, hey, there's a McDonald's just a couple blocks from here. I think we need a break to get a snack or get lunch. Well, if they go to McDonald's, they probably won't come back. They'll come up with a reason. Oh, I got to go do this, and they'll be gone. So bring a couple of sandwiches. Why two? Because the person that you're with is probably, they might forget to bring a sandwich. Okay. Bring 2 water bottles. Make sure you have uh, a fully charged cell phone with you. I've seen volunteers say, oh, my cell phone battery is dead. I've got to check on my kids. Well, make sure that their cell phones are charged up fully before the canvassing event takes place or before you go out canvassing yourself. Make sure that it's charged and you're ready to go, that you have a button or badge on to show people through their, eye hole in their door, their keyhole in their door, at least give them some assurance that you are who you say you are and you're not an axe murderer going on a 5-state killing spree. Make sure you have comfortable shoes. Make sure you've got food and water to share. Make sure you've got a backpack. Dress appropriately, no umbrellas. Make sure that you're also equipped. Try to get a walking list that lists people in the homes you are canvassing in the order they appear on the street. You can get lists of registered voters that are sorted by street. So you can walk down the street and follow along with your list. I'm a little bit old fashioned. You can do what you want, but I like printed lists on the old style fan fold paper that kind of has the little holes on the side of it. Have it in a stack, hold it in a stack like this with a pen. You can make marks on it. You can make notes like has fierce dog or wants to volunteer or his opponent, don't waste your time. Those kind of things. A lot of campaigns now like to use these snazzy programs for phones and tablets to do their canvassing. I don't like it unless it's a big operation that's well funded. And the reason why is because instead of being a canvas organizer, you're going to become a tech support station because people are going to have trouble. They have to be trained on how to use the software. They're going to have trouble. Some of them will lose signal. Some of them will have other problems. Some of them, their charge will run out, whatever it is. And as soon as anything breaks on that system, you're going to have problems and you're going to lose doors. Okay, so one of the reasons that those things exist, ostensibly to help the volunteers who are knocking on doors, but it's really to help the people in the back office who are doing the data entry. If they can do it on a computer by using a program that volunteers will use in real time, it saves them a lot of effort, but it really hampers the ability to get to a lot of doors. So unless you want to become a tech support station for a piece of software, and then 2 years later have it, have to do it all over again because a new system came out that's better. Uh, Newspaper, print off lists for people. If you're organizing a canvassing operation and you've got 5, 10 people you're working with, print out lists for them ahead of time and have a few extra lists in case, one of them's having a problem, you can move a volunteer to another location. And that's also a good reason to make sure everybody's cell phones are charged because when you're out in the field, you want to see how people are doing, check on them, see if they need anything, see if they need a new list, whatever it is, you need to be able to communicate with them. We've got a raised hand. JD, go ahead.
So I deal with a lot of data and haven't done this yet, but I'm thinking about making paper lists precinct by precinct, so that our house captain can give them out to those that are willing to canvass. And of course, I would sort them by street and house number.
Sure.
But I'm wondering, from all your experience, and then I do it by household,
Mm-hmm.
a single grouping for the household and then who's registered and their
Sure.
party affiliation. With all your experience, do you have like a preferred format that I might imitate or copy?
For a list,
Yeah,
I have some that I can send you offline. Send me an email and I can send them to you. I've written some computer programs that generate the kind of lists that you're talking about. They're also available from a lot of county election offices. You can ask for a list to be provided in, street walking format so that the homes and voters are organized in the way that you describe. But if you send me an email, I will reply back with an example of a list I've generated in the past. But I do like for the field workers, I do like printed lists. They're self-explanatory. People can make notes on them, and you don't have to deal with technical issues. You don't have to deal with training. You don't have to deal with software licensing. You don't have to, um, deal with people who have problems using the software in the field. Your field workers can just focus on knocking on as many doors as possible. It will require more work in the back office, but I think, in my opinion, reaching more doors and having more work in the back office is politically better than having fewer doors in the field and less work in the back office. Does that help you?
absolutely does. I'll send you an email.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, what else do we have here? Always work in pairs when you're doing a canvassing. Have somebody come with you. Okay, this is important because, if you knock on the door of a mental patient, or somebody who should be a mental patient, they might say that you did X, Y, and Z, and you'll have a witness there that says that you did nothing wrong. Also, you're less likely to be a 5-state axe murderer if you're with someone and you both have badges saying what you're looking for. It's good for them too. Plus, you're going to need help carrying things. You're going to have flyers that you're going to be carrying around. You're going to have a backpack with food and drinks, and they might have one too. Somebody's going to have the list, and it's sometimes just helpful to have a pair of hands. But for the sake of safety, always have somebody come with you. Always go in pairs. Always have your pitch ready. That's another thing. What is it you're going to say? Again, I'm a favorite of saying very little. Just making contact. Making contact is the important thing, not the speech so much. If you can make contact and just say, "Hi, I'm Richard Burke. I'm working for Angela Smith for our State House of Representatives. This is her flyer. We'd love you to take a look at it. And if you have questions, contact us at the email shown or on the website shown. Anything I can do for you?" And they'll probably say no, and then you go on to the next house. Boom, boom, boom. Have your pitch ready. During the gas tax initiative drive, the petition drive, it was, might be helpful to say a little more than that. To say, "Hi, I'm Richard Burke. I'm representing the no on the gas tax initiative. And, we'd like to have these taxes repealed. If you agree, sign here." Okay, that's a situation where you might want to say a little more. But again, you're keeping it short. You're keeping it brief. You're hitting as many doors as you can. If you start answering questions, the risk is run that you might answer something wrong, and that becomes an election law complaint. There's a risk that you'll lose time. There's a risk that you'll just have lots of problems. So make sure you have your pitch ready, keep it short, keep it general, let them do research if they have more detailed questions. The next thing I would recommend is that you be very careful to respect property. Use sidewalks wherever you can. A lot of times, especially on city streets, you'll have a sidewalk and then a walkway to a door, and a sidewalk, a walkway to a door. Don't cut across yards. People are offended when you cut across yards. Sometimes people don't care, but sometimes people are working on their grass. Sometimes they just don't like people trotting all over their property. So make sure that even if it's a little bit out of your way, do what you can to make sure that you're using the sidewalks and the provided walkways, and that you respect the private property. Also, be very careful of what you say. Okay. I've seen volunteers go to a door, have a bad interaction with somebody, and walk away saying, "What a jerk that person was," or "That was really good," or whatever it is. It used to not be a problem after the door closed, but people have these things now called intelligent doorbells, and they have microphones so sensitive that they can detect a whisper across the street. So don't comment on the person you attempted to interact with or the person you interacted with. Don't comment on them. Save that for a story to be, completed later. Maybe after your canvassing is over. Be very careful that you say nothing but complimentary, respectful things, because you don't know what microphones are picking up what. You see it all the time now. Intelligent doorbells with cameras and microphones are picking up all kinds of things. Police are using them now to capture criminals, and you don't want them used, showing you making a disparaging statement about somebody. Who knows that, maybe the person is a big government proponent. They'll take a look at the footage from their smart doorbell and the audio, and you could see yourself on a political campaign ad. This is what the campaigners of Angela Smith are like. You just don't want that. So be very, very careful, respect property, and be very careful what you say. Again, keep conversation short. Okay. And a couple of other things. Take COVID precautions. I know it seems way outdated right now, but there are still people walking around with masks on. So what I encourage people to do is not wear a mask, but just stick one in your back pocket. Okay? If you go to the door, if you're on their property, you've got to respect property rights. Okay? Let's say that I own property and I don't want anyone to come on my property. I put a big sign up, do not come on my property unless you're wearing purple tennis shoes. Okay? It's ridiculous. But it's my property, and I have the right to make lawful restrictions on who may enter my property. Okay, so if you happen to knock on a door, give them some space, walk back a couple of paces so you're not right in their face. And if they show up with a mask on and say, "Could you please put on a mask?" You're going to blow them away if you stick there and put a mask on. It's their property. If you want to knock on their door, got to play by their rules. Of course, when you're done talking to them, rip that sucker off and stick it back in your pocket. But your objective there is to make voter contacts. And as limited government proponents, we support property rights. So try to respect the, rules or conditions that people make for you to be on their property as best you can. Now, I saved this for almost last. Don't take anything personally. If you take nothing away from this training other than this, take this home with you. There will be people who are wonderful. You will knock on somebody's door and meet some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. People that will agree with you. But you're also going to meet jerks. There are going to be people that call you a fascist because they think you voted for this person or that person or supported this initiative or that initiative, whatever it is. There are going to be people that call you Hitler. There are going to be people that slam the door in your face. And I've seen people start a canvassing run, and in one case, a person had bad interactions 4 doors in a row. That's just bad luck. Okay? This person came to me and said, "Rich, I want to help, but I didn't sign up to get my face, the door slammed in my face. I didn't come here to be insulted. I'm going home." Okay, well, this person took it all very personally. The people who do these things, who use obscenities, call you names, slam the door in your face, they don't know anything about you. They don't know anything about your personality. They don't know anything about, how you pray, what your family is like, what values you hold dear, what your hobbies are. They know nothing about you. Okay. So when they act in a hostile way like this, it's not about you. It's about something inside of them that's coming out, causing them to be hostile. If you can agree in your mind that this is true, you're partway there. But there are people who know it in their mind, but they haven't incorporated that into their heart. If you can incorporate that fact in your heart, you're invincible. You could knock on 100 doors in a row and they would be hostile. And if you didn't take it personally, realize that you are not being sworn at as a person. Somebody who might be swearing at you maybe doesn't like something about themselves, or maybe they had a bad experience, or maybe you threaten their ideology. That's all about them. It's not about you. If you have 4 bad doors in a row, the 5th one might be a great experience. And then you might have 5 in a row that are great, and then another bad one. But whether they respond to you positively or negatively, it's not about you and it's not personal. And if you can incorporate that into your heart, then nobody can shut you down and you're invincible to those kinds of things. If you can open your mind and your heart to that fact, then you can be open to anything and you can learn anything and you can do just about anything. It's Margaret Thatcher famously quoted a poem, who wrote a poem about somebody who was proud that they never offended anyone. And Prime Minister Thatcher thought this was disgraceful. And the poem basically said, if you've never offended anyone in your life, you've probably never stood for something. You've probably never, taken on a battle of any kind that's worth anything. And that if you have, not intentionally, but if you have incidentally brought people into opposition to you because of your sincere stances on important issues, then you're standing for something. You're doing something noble. And the people who might want to belittle you, they're just belittling themselves. So go out there with the idea that you're going to have fun. What I'm talking about doesn't happen very often. The negative interactions that I'm talking about happens very seldom. Sometimes you might get a negative this or a negative that, not interested, but you'll seldom get a really hostile thing. But when it does happen, it's important that you do not take it personally, because in the main, you're going to have fun. It'll be awkward at first if you don't do this a lot. If you haven't done it before, it might be a little bit awkward, but after, a few doors, you'll start to get comfortable with it. And if you do it for a while, you'll start to like it. You'll start to have fun, because even though you will have the occasional negative experience, you'll have far more positive experiences, and it'll help build confidence. And you'll be politically effective. So that is very, very important. Now, the last thing I'll point out today is if you are organizing a canvassing effort, have a place where people meet before the effort begins. Okay, it might be a donut shop. Get a dozen donuts. Make sure everybody has some donuts and coffee as they head out. This is the time to make sure that they've all got bottles of water, they've all got a sandwich, they've got their walking lists, they know where to go, their cell phones are working. This is where you have a little meeting, and then you make it as short as possible, but you make sure everybody's okay. And then you go to your places and you do the canvassing. The canvassing manager, after an hour, call them, see how they're doing, and make sure they check in, a few hours after that, depending on how long your canvassing effort is. But when your canvassing effort is over, let's say we're going to go till 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, meet somewhere when it's over. I like to recommend a pizza place. There you can celebrate your success. You can talk about how many doors you hit. People can share their stories. And, someone will have experiences that the other person didn't have, and vice versa. They can talk about their stories and educate each other. And it creates camaraderie. And with that camaraderie, you're more likely to get them to bring friends with them next time, and they're more likely to come next time. So that essentially is the information I have to provide you with. You've received the documents, and take another look at them, share them with as many people as you can. And as I always like to say, I cannot guarantee any level of success that you will have using this information. With this particular training unit, I think you will have a high amount of success. But the one thing I know for sure is if you use this information, you will have more success than if you do not use this information. And you will have mastered one of the most important things you can do in grassroots politics. Are there any questions? Okay. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share? Oh, go ahead, JD.
Yeah, this is unrelated to canvassing, but I was at a house captain's. She does these quarterly potlucks, and
Sure.
a few weeks ago I went to one, and we had the candidate for House District 37, Chad Parker, and for the related Senate district, Dana Hidman Allen, were both there, and they, I noticed on your website you're very interested in education. I guess that's probably school choice kind of thing.
Well, we generally support school choice options, and Western Liberty Network as a 501c3 organization is almost entirely about education.
So they seem to know they both have in their campaign material support for school choice, and yet I was surprised they didn't know much about it. And I mean, they didn't even know about the 2027 tax deduction thing that was in the big, beautiful bill, and how Oregon is not going to want to become a state that accepts that, In any case, can you suggest how to connect these two candidates? They're both first-time candidates, non-political up until the last couple of years, really.
Yeah.
And is there a way they can be tutored on major issues that run in their favor, and
Sure.
contacts that
Sure.
would be valuable to them?
Yeah, what I would do is simply reserve a table at a quiet and affordable restaurant and invite them to come. And as you invite them, say, there's some information we'd like to give you about some key issues. So, would you be receptive to that? And if they're a decent candidate and it's clear that you represent a constituency, they'll come. And then you can talk to them, hand them out information, give them reading material, tell them, what your concern is. That's what I would do. They need to be able to express themselves on issues like that. And it's going to fall on people like you to educate them, at least at this point in the process.
Okay.
That's what I would go for. So I'd like to ask the rest of you, Virginia, Janet, Rick, do you think this training has been of value? Is this something that you think it should take statewide, or do you think it is deficient in some important way? Feedback's always important.
I think you've done a wonderful job. I took notes this time, although I've been to many of your training sessions. But I totally agree with you with the paper lists. I've done both. and my preference is the paper one, paper list as well.
Yep.
And also, one of the things when people get offended thinking that you're political, we have little badges that just say concerned citizen.
Mhm.
Just to identify as just a concerned citizen. It's not political.
Mhm.
You've done a great job. Thank you.
No problem. That's a good idea. Although, it's perfectly all right to be political as long as you're clear about what you're doing. But you raise a really good issue.
Oh,
Does
and another thing,
yes,
it helps not to wear political clothing.
yes, it does. I agree. I agree.
No Trump hat.
That's right. That's right. Do either of the rest of you, Rick or Virginia, do you have any comments?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I thought that was a great presentation. I sent the invitation out to a bunch of PCPs in Hood River County,
Mhm.
and I'm surprised that none of them showed up. Maybe it was the time or something. They're busy. It's hard to tell. Um,
Well, summer's a trick. People are doing
yeah,
things in the summer, and also, they're not in the habit of it. And these things often require a telephone follow-up. And so that's possible sometimes, sometimes it's not. But you guys are here, and I'll tell you what, I'd rather talk to a small group that really wants to use the information than a large group of people who simply want to be entertained. So that's perfectly fine.
okay. It's okay for me to send. I downloaded the presentations you or the papers you put in the chat.
Uh-huh.
And so I can send those out to the people.
Please do.
Okay.
Yep, please
And
do.
will
Spread
you
it far and
be,
wide.
you're trying to decide if you're going to put this on again or what?
Well, I know I'll put it on in some form again, but I'm always revising and always trying to update and improve. Uh,
Okay.
so,
Well, I'll talk to people at our next meeting and see if we can get it for attendees.
okay, thank you very much, Rick. And the last one who hasn't checked in yet is Virginia. Did you have any comments? It's okay if you don't.
Yeah, what you and Janet were saying is not really political. What you should have said is partisan,
Yeah,
because
I
it's
think that,
all political, but try
yeah.
not to be partisan at the door. And then the other thing is the attendance requires some urgency.
Yeah.
So uh, I will do my best to uh, start talking to people about canvassing. And then if I can get enough interest, I will invite you to come and speak at our meeting.
I would love to do that. I would. And what city are you in?
I'm in Astoria.
Yeah, I'd love to come to Astoria. I love Astoria.
Good.
And so you get
So,
it together, I'll be happy to come and do a
yeah.
live.
And the other thing is, we have done canvassing for my election integrity uh, activities in Clatsop County. And it turned out that the people that would volunteer are a bunch of old farts like me, and
Mhm.
it completely wore us out. And so now, if I say canvassing is kind of a dirty word, uh, but I'm trying to re-inspire them by using Oregon Data Center to be able to do texting, to
Yep.
make phone calls instead of stair step visits.
That's yep. That's good for
So,
people who have a little more trouble getting around. We have a training on getting out the vote. A lot of people don't like to go to get out the vote call centers, but they're okay with calling people they know. So we train them to
right,
call people that they know that are already in their networks that they're comfortable talking to, and just make sure that their friends get out to vote. And this same approach can work for phone canvassing as well.
right. That's a good idea.
Hmm.
So, and then the other thing that I personally am going to do is uh, learn better how to use data center and get Beth Kaiser, who's the master of texting,
Mm-hmm.
to help me set up some targeted texting. Because she has contacts for how to get it done cheaper, let's say.
That's very cool. That's
Because
very
you
Yes,
have to pay for a lot of this stuff.
I
Mhm.
was just on the phone with her yesterday regarding this, and she's very knowledgeable. She's doing very well in Yamhill County using the techniques that she has. That they're very successful. It's good to hear your voice, Virginia.
Thank you.
I love
Good.
these conferences. They bring people together that haven't seen each other in a while. Happens a lot.
Yes, yes. Virginia is very active with integrity, election integrity. Yes. Or you could say election fraud.
Yeah, election anything is my thing.
Yes, you do a very good job. Thank you for what you do, Virginia.
Thank you.
And whoever talked about Dana and the meeting that you had, I'll talk to Dana's a friend of mine, and I will talk to her. She's very knowledgeable. She used to be very involved with schools. I'm very involved with schools. That's kind of my forte. But thank you for bringing that up. The candidates should be well versed in
Yes.
any levels.
I'm going to cut the session. It's 1:09. I try to keep these at an hour or less.
Mhm.
So I want to thank all of you for participating today. The next one we're going to do is on how to write and distribute press releases. And that'll be next Saturday at noon at the same time. So let people know. We'll be putting out some email notices and Facebook notices and a couple of other platforms in the week to come. And this session will be posted shortly, probably within an hour or so. So God bless you all, and I hope to see you all soon.
Thank you.
Richard.
You've done a great job.
Yes.
One more thing, when you send out information about the meetings, can you give us a link that we can use on Facebook that is easy to post the link to the people we know will put it up
Sure.
on Facebook
I'll be happy
or
to
X or whatever.
I'll be happy to do that. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Okay.
Yeah, it's really important.
Okay. Have a
Thank
good
you.